Hello and welcome to Soul's Compass Healing. My name is Brianne Lazinski. If it's your first time here, please like, subscribe, and share this video. If you are watching again, thank you. I appreciate you being here. And as always, please leave comments about how you're doing and any questions or musings that you have. I love hearing feedback. I am going to be speaking to this Capricorn full moon and a few aspects happening after through the lens of Jeffrey Wolf Green evolutionary astrology, as well as my background as a social worker. I'm going to start macro and go micro, so I'm going to start with how this might be felt on a collective level and how this might be felt on a personal level. So we have this full moon at the last degree of Capricorn conjunct Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius retrograde. Pluto is first quarter trine Mars exact on this full moon. And so there is something to be said here about the Pluto process of evolution, which is Pluto. This process of cyclically building and tearing down over and over and over again. Evolution and devolution. This is Pluto. And I think that this full moon really pinpoints that when we have the moon. A very personal, a very internal planet, well, moon, at the last degree of Capricorn, after Pluto has finished the duration of its 2 decades in the sign of Capricorn, and will dip back into Capricorn in a couple of months here before finally staying in Aquarius for the next 2 decades. And so we have this we are in this moment in time where we are realizing that this process of evolution is a process of things getting built up, Capricorn, and things getting torn down, Uranus. And so this happens throughout the ages, this happens as the pendulum swings, as we say, in the field of social work, that there's certain trends and treatments, right? Or there's certain governmental sort of interests or ways of approaching things, right? It can be more this way or it can be more that way, and so the pendulum swings, right? And so we, as the masses that make up, our government, that make up our structures of support in our society, that make up the world that we live in, we're in this time where we are realizing the little big world that is around us, and wanting to wanting to assess the foundational structure of well, what is actually going on here though, because it's broken, and so there is this Mars is at 0 degrees Gemini at the time of this full moon. So there is this natural tendency to ask questions, and it's also conjunct Uranus, which rules Pluto in the sign of Taurus, right? And so it's let's make a list of all the things that aren't working. Let's make a broken list, And of course, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, We don't need to go looking for more work here. There's plenty already. But yeah, make a broken list. Make a what's working list. You know, that's Gemini. It wants to see both sides. It wants to see the pros and the cons. It wants to see what's working and what's not. And why? The famous Gemini question, why? Because this is what informs us of where, how, and when we can move forward with those necessary changes. And with Uranus conjunct Mars, this certainly can be a time, and I mean we're seeing it in certain examples that are happening out there in the world, where it's like there are changes happening, ready or not, and that enforced change can also really be an eye-opener for seeing what's broken and what isn't, right? And so if we don't know what the problem is, if we don't know what is broken, then how will we know where to start to fix it? And so this is what I see with this full moon. I see also the question, you know, because Mars is that, well, it's the planetary ruler of our north node right now. So it's where we are leaning in towards for our evolution, learning new ways of doing Mars, right? And Mars is about desire. Mars is about following the instinct. So it's like Mars in Gemini is like sniffing out everything in order to satisfy the curiosity, right? And it's conjunct Uranus and Taurus. So it's like to satisfy the curiosity of the senses, right? To see, like, to get really clear, I suppose. There can be curveballs coming at us right now that, what's the word? I can't think of the word right now, but that essentially create this perfect storm, so to speak, for asking the question, what's keeping you from living the life that you desire? And so with this Sun trine Neptune at the time of this full moon, we can be certainly feeling that well, this is Neptune retrograde, right? So it's certainly can be feeling on a collective and personal level the very agonizing, visceral reality of disillusionment, right? And how what comes with disillusionment is an increased appetite for truth, right? There is this realization through the disillusionment process, as painful as it is, and as it may cost us energy in a multitude of different ways, it's also a catalyst. That was the word I was looking for earlier. A catalyst for helping us to realize that actually living in truth costs me less energy in the long run. You know, living in the present as opposed to escapism, avoidance, fantasy. All of those things, they actually cost us so much energy to keep to keep that going, to keep that which is providing, well, yeah, that which is in nature and is not to be condemned. Avoidance, escapism, fantasy. This is not to say that these things are bad. However, they are meant to be short-term adaptations to help us get through something. And when they become the long-term crutch from which we then hobble around, not having this full expression of life force, sun, right? Our life force is dimmed because we're on this crutch. And so when that happens, of course it's going to take more energy to move, to do anything, to show up, to be you. And so, yeah. What else do I want to talk about? Hopefully this boat isn't too loud. Yeah. With this Uranus and Taurus, there can be, as I was saying, sudden shocks and changes that can show us a starting point for the crumbling, failing systems that we live with. But it can also come with Taurus resistance to change. And certainly this is being played out on a collective level. I truly do see it as learned helplessness. People are just like, I can't. And I understand that there is a time when the words I can't are legitimate. We aren't all super privileged people who have the ability to do everything that we want and achieve our desires all of the time, right? And so, there certainly is a time to legit be like, I can't and I need support. However, there's also times when this I can't is derived from this learned helplessness. It's derived from something in the past that is repeating in the present, right? And really it's it's a matter of recognizing that we can get comfortable with things even though they're not working. Like we can get comfortable with knowing that, for me in the field of social work, it's like, yeah, I can get comfortable with the fact that working for government is going to look like this and that working for a nonprofit is going to look like this and that trying to do my own thing and be an entrepreneur is going to look like this or that, right? I can see in it all what makes me uncomfortable. There's no comfortable place to be out there in the world, I think, right now. And maybe there is for people who live in a bubble away from reality. But for those of us who are here wanting to, wanting to just participate and co-create with people a little bit more ease a little bit more comfort, a little bit more healing, you know, then it's like it comes down to voicing discomfort, you know, and realizing that change comes from discomfort. Change does not come from being super comfortable. That's not how it works. And this full moon is a very distressing, uncomfortable full moon where it's like, if I could, you know, if I could just like, you know, jump out of my own skin, I would, or like everything around me is just causing me to just react, you know? It's like that can be totally what we can be feeling on a personal level right now. And I just want to say that that discomfort and that anger that comes with seeing the things that are broken, that comes with feeling the discomfort that we are in, right? No longer numbing to that. It's like this is how we effectively initiate the change that we desire, is by learning how to harness that anger and that discomfort in an effective way in order to initiate and bring something new into the picture, you know. And with Mars now going to be transiting the sign of Gemini, we have an opportunity to experiment with our communication. And you know, a little personal note, I used to be known as the like angry teenager social worker at one point in my career, because I would just get so angry about the injustices, and I would go into meetings and just act like an angry teenager. And it was a huge learning lesson for me to receive feedback from those that I was in the room with and working with, that, you know, like that's not going to get me anywhere. Like I have to learn how to A, see the injustice, B, okay, I'm a person who can't help but feel angry about it. I need to find a way of how to process that. C, I need to find a way how to effectively communicate to actually bring about the desired outcome, to actually bring about that desired change that is making me so angry. You know, so it's like, that was, you know, a little personal note here, that was like a big learning curve for me. And I'm still trying to figure it out. And also, while we're talking about communication, Mercury is disseminating sexy quadrate to Ceres. Mercury is also first quarter square Uranus at the time of this full moon. And Mercury is going to be going retrograde for most of next month. So I would like to sort of now bring this more into the personal micro level of when, so like our body is, I'm also relating now back to this Mars-Uranus conjunction. Our body is in constant communication. It is in constant communication with itself, right? Our autonomic nervous system digesting and keeping our heart beating and keeping our breath flowing in and out without our attention necessary, you know? It's like there's so much communication going on within our body, and there is so much communication that we can consciously have with our body. And so coming back to that idea that change comes from discomfort, so many, like, this certainly is on a collective level, like, this is like, I really do think that everybody struggles with this to a certain degree because of modern life, and what we are accustomed to is this escapism and avoidance that I was speaking to earlier. And so it's like this, when the discomfort comes up in our body in a certain way, whether it be, indigestion or achy back or what have you, this is information coming from the body. This is Uranus in Taurus, right? This is like conjunct Mars. This is instinct. This is like our body is doing its functions. And so when it comes to meeting the body in its discomfort, this is where we can bring necessary changes and adjustments, sort of a different light, or a different aspect of Uranus and Taurus, right, is like trying on this, trying on that. Okay, body, you don't like these foods, what about those foods? Okay, we're going to trial this, we're going to trial that. I'm going to, try these somatic exercises and see if that can bring a sense of inner security and safety. And if that doesn't work, then I'll try that, and etc., etc., goes on and on. And so through this Mars, this sort of like Mars and Gemini, this trial and error, right? This like, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try to bring more ease to my body, to my system, and see what happens. Like that can really go a long way. And coming full circle back to communication, it's like, do we have language for this yet? Even as I'm describing it, I'm kind of like stuttering a bit, because it's like, by and large, collectively speaking, we aren't used to doing this. We are so used to living so disembodied, so out there somewhere else, and so let's build the language for it. Let's talk about it. This is what I am passionate about. This is what I want to share and bring into my one-on-one sessions, because it is so important that as we do this experimentation with our bodies, starting with where we're at, where there's discomfort, not where we're overwhelmed, but just where there's discomfort, and starting to develop the language. And then the language will be different for each and every individual. This is where it starts to get, individualized, and not this like one size fits all thing, right? We start to learn the language of our own body and our own nervous system, and how we can navigate that, right? And so coming back to the question that I asked on my last video, when I said, what then is the healing journey? This is what I'm most passionate about right now. And of course it's highly unique and to be individually tailored to each and every soul, because each and every soul has a different soul history. Each and every soul has a different history in this life. We are all carrying certain things. We all have highly unique nervous systems and bodies that function and will respond to different things in order to go from discomfort to more ease, right? And so it's about being on this quest of discovery and being willing to, first of all, feel a little bit uncomfortable, because it's hard work and it's weird. It's weird. Straight up weird. So, yeah. What else? So all of this is happening while Chiron is going to go retrograde on the 26th. So yeah, for those of us who have a planet or planets in, the mid degrees of Aries, trust me, I'm feeling ya. I'm like, whoa, Chiron's going retrograde again? Okay. And Chiron will actually be at 19 degrees Aries, where he was at the time of this most recent solar eclipse that we had in April. We'll be there for about 3 months this winter, rounding off 2024, leading out into 2025. And so the beginning of this retrograde journey, I suppose, is every time that Chiron goes retrograde and goes direct is like another layer, right? It's like the healing journey is never over, like Chiron was searching his whole life as an immortal for healing medicine. The healing journey is never over. And so it's like, what is the next carving swipe, God? What are you gonna carve out this time? It's a time to go inward and be introspective about that. And so with Mars going to be semi-square Chiron shortly after he goes retrograde on August. He goes retrograde on the 26th. Mars will semi-square him on August 2nd. We can use this introspective energy in the awkward aspect of a semi-square of asking questions, right? Mars will be in Gemini. Where does my courage come from? How do I access it? What does it take to be courageous? Because Chiron in Aries, as I've said before, is not, yay, I am so courageous. I have everything that it takes to trailblaze my direction in life. Here we go. Look out, world. It's like that's probably not what many of us are feeling right now. So asking those questions can really inform the next steps to cultivating that, right? And then we have Venus, our south nodal ruler. She's currently in the sign of Leo. And she will be on the same day, August 2nd, she'll be squaring Uranus. So we can get an action shot of how our relating dynamics, first of all, got stuck in a repetitious trauma loop. And second of all, have trampled on the spark of joy and of self-expression. And so this is my astrology report for the Capricorn full moon coming up. Is there anything else that I want to say about that? Nope. Thank you so much for listening. Please write in the comments. Visit my website if you would like to book a one-on-one support session with me. And I am wishing you all of the very best. Thank you.